Hello and welcome to Neuromentoring. We are so glad you can join us.
I'm Lucy.
I'm Brian.
Together, we explore what mentoring is in these neurodiverse spaces we call universities. Today's topic is all about mentoring breaks. Could you elaborate on that a little bit for me, Brian?
Okay. As a mentor, and this is why we're doing this really early on in our arc of talking about mentoring. Actually, we don't just talk about getting stuff done. We talk about how to make sure that you live a good, flourishing life. And that includes, really importantly, having some time off. Now, if you are a beautiful and wonderful creature of routine, time off itself can be a bit daunting, but it's one of those deep human needs. All of us need a break. Lucy, do you need a break?
No comment.
I will tell you, we're recording this mid-November. I used to have the theory, but I still have the idea that November the 16th was the crunch date. And by this, I meant that that was the kind of time where students come in crisis, in distress, to mentors, to disability provision, and just have a bit of a walk. Year in, year out, it's about the same. It kind of was when the first big essays were due for first years, compounded by the fact that it's been a good couple of months since they probably took a break.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that you can see it across undergraduate at different stages. But for a lot of my first years, like you say, they start in September, they've had the transition period, and now all of a sudden, it's been a long time since they've written an essay or sat an exam. And there's a build up between November and January. This is where that's sort of the first quarter of assessment. For second years, my second years, talking about my cohort, are experiencing several assignments at the same time, unless they have adjustments in place, which some do, which I think is great, but that's another subject for another time. And then third years, it's sort of reaching that first hurdle of their dissertation, getting their proposal accepted, getting their ethics, getting their design right. There's a lot of academic jargon all of a sudden in your third year that you've got to remember and think about.
More than that, all that academic jargon hides is the uncertainty. So those of you doing your theses at the moment, yes, you do have to go through that horrible phase of not quite knowing what you're doing. And that can be really quite toxic on the side. There is light at the end of the tunnel. I promise it's not an oncoming train, but actually you will find what you need to do the next thing, and you'll create your own routines and structures. And that's A grade academia. And that's A grade student. Yeah, creating your own. Saying that, I do like the app Structured for when I don't have structure in my life.
Yeah.
It's a very, very good app. Just maybe share what might be an apocryphal tale. And part of this is a chunk of my learning was done before the internet. So there are stuff that I learned as probably a student that I haven't fact checked, but it's stuck in my head anyway. But there's the story about, it was one of the Soviet states decided to try and get rid of weekends as being productive. And they decided to make, I think there was one episode of Despising a Week, one of just getting rid of weekends at all. And they found that every 8th or 9th day, people would start taking it off ill. They'd start phoning in this is pre-phones, for whatever reason, because we need, as humans, a break. And yeah, the fact that majority of world faiths actually have a sanctified day, a day which you must not work on. Unfortunately, and I've said this far too often, capitalism sucks. We bring that kind of work ethic into ourselves, and it causes huge problems, I think, with well-being. Lucy, what's your longest non-stop work thing? I've never done more than 10 days before I've just freaked out.
If I've had a week off, it's been loosely off because I can't leave my business alone. That's a separate conversation.
Another time.
But I get what I call itchy and scratchy, restless.
Bang, 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 bang.
When I'm fighting guilt and rest.
Oh, you say big wise things. It's guilt and rest, isn't it?
Yeah. It's the mental noise when your body is exhausted. And neurodivergent people experience all guilt, fatigue, mental noise to different degrees where you are on the spot, depending on where you are on the spiky profile. But for me, rest is laden with guilt because I should be being productive. But interesting you say about routine, Brian. For me, I still very much live by Monday to Friday's work, Saturday, Sundays off. But I'm even guilty of still checking my emails of the weekend. So resting, I don't know. It's interesting how
Now,
resting
guilt,
looks.
guilt I find fascinating, partly because I sometimes need about a 2-month run up before I feel guilty about stuff. But I'm very, very fortunate that I've got a memory issue, so I forget stuff. Ryan, should you be feeling guilty about this? I have no idea. Did it really happen to me? But I still, when I do come around to guilt, for me, it is that almost childhood guilt of my brain, because I'm an AFAN, because I can't picture stuff, no pictures in my head. The things that I've done where I haven't realized that not everybody has my brain. And it's
Yeah.
coming back to that, oh, what did I do wrong? Is it because it's rather than that guilt? And it took me years to start reframing this, was actually imposed upon me by teachers, schoolmates, even loving family. They put that guilt on you because they don't realize that you're functioning at a different level. And so that guilt stays with you, and it ends up with you're trying to rest. It's not just your voice that says, you should be doing stuff in your head. It's your mum's voice, it's your teacher's voice, it's your friend's voice. Yeah, again and again. Again, really lucky I don't actually have voices in my head, and I sometimes pretend just because I know everybody else does. Okay, dropped that mask, didn't I? Oh, it's terrible.
No, I think guilt, there's an element of masking actually, and we'd be wrong not to mention that actually guilt and masking are sort of, I suppose, in relation to previous trauma potentially or childhood experiences. I think a lot of the foundational experiences you have as a young child or a young person, certain things you carry with you. And for me, guilt is one of those things that I can't sit still. Obviously, a lot of people that have the diagnosis of ADHD, for example, have had a lifetime of, oh, come on, get up. Come on, get up, do this, do that, at school, at home, with friends. So there's a lot of things that people carry from childhood into adulthood, and it's interesting how it informs the adult neurodivergent presentation and its relationship to masking.
And I think, just to pull that part even further, it's the guilt of inertia.
Yeah.
Being told you've stopped and you must start, or you're starting, you must stop. And all that kind of inertia that we create in ourselves to get stuff done, being told that that doesn't fit with everyone else.
No.
And why are we surprised then that that guilt of inertia comes with burnout? We are trains going down the tracks on our own things, and our wheels are getting hotter and hotter into something else. Which is why maybe we should give ourselves a break when burnout comes along. It really does. That sort of smaller bit part of this bit is also how burnout and sleep come together. If you are feeling guilty, I'm a father. One of the things that I regret telling my boys when they were 6 or 7 was a little mantra that I had, which is sleep is for the weak. And occasionally at 5:30 in the morning when they're still waking me up, it's, no, go away. But Daddy, sleep is for the weak. You're 22, you go and have a nap.
Not in this January morning where it's frosty outside and the heat zone just come on. I don't want to get up.
Oh, and it is, sleep is always the ultimate inertia. I know those days when you've got that power running and you know you have to sleep and you can't sleep, and then you've got to sleep and you've got to wake up. It's that terrible thing, and we need sleep.
Well, once you throw in Alexa formula, interoception, proprioception, executive functioning difficulties, throw that into the mix, and there's no one presentation how that looks. For some students, that might be excessive, or what society classes as excessive sleeping, and then you'll have other students or people that will present in a way where they cannot sleep. They cannot quieten their mind. So it's a very interesting presentation.
It is, and it feeds all this stuff about burnout, that actually if your sleep isn't good, you are going to be susceptible to that. It's just one of my favorite things when I was a student. So I went back to do academia, my doctorate stuff late in life, which means as an older guy, you can get away with stuff and maybe teach these strategies to other people. I loved a 2 o'clock lecture, finishing about maybe 3:30 or so, and then I'd wander across to the library. And the library had an amazing, well, an item that you could check out. You could go, can I have a blanket? And this library would give you this big fuzzy blanket, and you'd take it up to the study room where they had these big, wonderful sort of curved chairs. And then I would fall asleep in a public place underneath a blanket, good 45 minutes, possibly some of the best learning I ever did. Just one
Yeah.
of those weird things that actually, if you have a nap after you've learned stuff, you are far more likely to retain it than not having a nap. So here's naps to you all. Enjoy them. They are fantastic things. And maybe that takes us on to something else about the relationship between learning and downtime. For me, it was naps,
Yeah.
but also the summer holiday. Lucy, back when you were a student, did you
Yes.
learn stuff during the summer holiday?
During my undergraduate degree, I spent my summers keeping my Spanish up.
Yeah.
I wasn't speaking to classmates. I had to become fluent in a very, very short period of time. So of the years that I've had Spanish as my minor, my summers were spent practicing verbs, conjugation. So it remained in my memory. But I was able to manage my learning in a very different way to the typical institutionalized sit down and listen to the lecture, come in, go to the seminars, go to the workshops. I was able to learn on my terms. And I think possibly that actually influenced why I decided to do a remote master's degree pre-COVID, just on the cusp. And I fell in love with the learning process.
And it's a
But it,
lovely way of envisaging downtime, or well, we
yeah,
don't even call it downtime. It's that time where we actually get to learn in our own ways.
yeah,
Now, I know I'm that the whole idea of having, kinesthetic learners or visual learners or whatever, we know the statistics about that. It's a pile of fetid dingo kids, to quote Douglas Adams. It doesn't actually work as an idea. It's a good way to get teachers to actually start reflecting on what they're doing,
yeah,
but it's not actually what kids do. I know that one of the ways that I learn is by talking things through with people. Lucy, I'm learning here. It's brilliant. Back when I was a student, last century, I was studying quite a bit of philosophy at one point. And for me, downtime was going to the pub with other philosophers, theologians, people of that kind of rigorous thinking or unrigorous thinking, and actually having a good old argument about it.
yeah.
And for me, that was my downtime. I felt recharged for it, but at the same time, it was adjacent to my learning and informed my learning. It's having the downtime that makes us better, which is why I love, I'm going to use the word special interests in learning.
Oh, I love that term.
Oh, it is. It's a glorious, it's crunchy, isn't it? It's like putting your
I've
hand.
got a question for you though, Brian.
Yeah.
In your mind, what's the difference between downtime, scheduled or unscheduled, and decompression time?
I wouldn't have a difference. Maybe I just use the word downtime as that which gives us energy, that which
Yeah.
stops the burnout. And actually, we do need that decompression, which is that putting the world at arm's length, taking a
Yeah.
couple of moments, a couple of hours, a couple of days even, just to realign yourself, to stop that I sometimes call them the social bends, when other people get in your system and they sort of bubble through you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope that makes sense.
No, that makes total sense.
Yeah. So you got the social bend. You can't come out of it and into different societies very, very quickly. Otherwise, your body's going to pop. So you need the decompression. There's also the downtime, which is where you start to feed yourself so that you become the better person. That downtime is soil time. It's growing time. It's putting your feet in the loam and becoming something better.
There's no one recipe there for downtime. Downtime will look different from day to day, or it might look the same for someone, or it might be blended into other aspects of the week, of the schedule, of the routine. So it's very interesting. But I completely agree with you. It's essential for well-being, as a sense of well-being.
And it keeps the burnout at arm's length. These breaks that we put into our life, it just allows us that one step back to take that breath to go forward. So the well-being breaks, that sort of downtime, that decompression, it's the first step in avoiding burnout. Any other lovely strategies that you've got for avoiding, accepting, sidestepping burnout?
Putting me on the spot here.
Yeah.
Um,
Just ones to share. Ones that have worked. They've
um,
only worked once.
I try and swim
Yeah.
because when you're in that swimming pool, you're not someone's partner. You're not responsible for a family, a relationship, friendships, your professional life, your academic life. You're just responsible for keeping above water, if that's how you choose to swim. Keeping yourself physically fit, but mentally, for me, it gives me space to recover. And I love the sensory input of water anyway, and I always have done. But there are other things that I might drag my feet to, like going to the gym or going for a walk. Sometimes I really don't realise how much I need a walk and some exposure to some natural sunlight.
Yep. I need minimum of 40 minutes every day.
Yeah.
It is really, I can almost time it. And for me, it's walking and the rhythm of walking. You know, when your legs get
Yeah.
going and suddenly you don't know where you are. Well, again, this may just be my particular neurodivergence. Suddenly don't know where I am, how I got there. It's brilliant. I'm
Well,
lost
see,
again. But I'm
my
outside. Yeah.
my mentor, Brian, sent me a sensory diet list. And I have tried a few different things, tried most things, and there are certain things, if I know I'm starting to get a bit fidgety and my concentration's pacing, there's certain activities that I can do that I don't know how it works, I don't know why it works, but it worked to just get the excess adrenaline or wake me up. I don't know how it works. Sometimes I might need to walk outside where it's colder. Sometimes that might be quickly washing my face with cold water. Sometimes that might be drinking through a straw. Sometimes it might be holding an ice cube. There's loads of different things that people can do. And sometimes I explore this menu with students. Okay, what wouldn't work for you? What would you like to try? And it's interesting how different students, different people, I suppose, what they take from that menu in order to be able to take a step out, take a step back.
I'm a great believer in sensory diets. And actually, like all diets, it's the ones that fit you and your body and
Yeah,
how you are again and again. Make a list. Go and ask your mentors if for one, just to get you started. My sensory diet, I like having boots on. They give that sort of feeling of my
yeah.
shoes. I did just that holding my feet together. I like dancing. Not dancing with strictly come dancing. No.
That
For
requires
me,
far too
yeah,
much coordination.
I love headphones on the tube
Mm,
and then doing that little dance that you have in the seat. And
yeah.
then when you get to the station, I sort of slide across stations because I really don't give a damn.
No, I'm the same when it
Club and
comes to
dancing.
music. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, no walk for me. I find it really hard to walk unless I'm in a state of complete burnout and I just need to listen to nature and have really low stimulus. 90% of the time, I need bassy music on my headphones with my noise cancellation, and off I go. And it
Lucy,
sets the pace.
yeah, it's so good to find a fellow shimmier.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that I am desperately trying to convince my better half, my wife, to do is with AirPods, you can sync between two. So
Yeah.
if you're walking together, you can actually have music in sync with something. I want to know whether just that's quite exciting, isn't it? Just,
Yeah.
yeah, down the street. And these kind of things that bring us joy actually keep burnout out. It's
Yeah.
coming back. But maybe it's the thing that counters guilt is joy. Maybe it's also acceptance as well. So I do try to define guilt. That feeling that we should have done something.
Yeah.
And sometimes we will think about, if we think about that guilt, we'll think to ourselves reasonably and without the trauma of the past, actually,
Yeah.
we should have done something.
Yeah.
And so one way to stop burnout is to actually fix it, to make the apology, to make things right. There
Yeah.
are times, though, where that little guilty voice is not a product of the experience, not the product of the now, where actually that then gets in the way of joy and acceptance because it's not really real.
Well, what's interesting and what you say there, Brian, is that I now have like a traffic light system in terms of urgency to manage guilt.
Yeah.
Do I need, is this person's livelihood, their role in my business, is it affected by my immediate answer? If it's a red category, I'd answer instantly. If it's a yellow category, I'd answer the next working day. That would be for me, okay, they need a relatively quick answer, but it's not super urgent. And then green is, okay, I can take my time, I'll put it on my to-do list and I'll do it when I've got a moment. And that's really helped me as a business owner manage my own expectations of how I turn up for other people, and realizing I don't have to provide an instant reply very quickly if it's interesting.
And I love it. And one of the things that we might want to talk about is the sort of confluence of spoons and service. What we do for others, plus how we look after ourselves. And as mentors, we need to look after ourselves so we can look after others. But there will be times where we've just got to look after others and damn ourselves, and actually then put ourselves back together. So spoons and service, it makes it sound like a wonderful. Look, this is basically the service place.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was just going to say.
Yeah, it's brilliant, isn't it? So I think your idea of the traffic light is very good, because you are making an ethical judgment each time that there's a demand upon your attention. Is it ethical for me to do this now? Is it actually more ethical for me to do this later?
Yeah.
And it's that strong ethics. And I find this when I talk to many mentors. They all have this strong core personal ethic, which allows them to navigate these troubled waters.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's what, if you're a mentor and you're not ethical, probably go and listen to another podcast.
Yeah.
In all humility, this probably isn't the one for you, and you might be doing your job.
Well, see, interestingly, related to that, but I mean, without looking at the current new courses out for people that want to train in this role, that was a skill that I developed actually during my master's degree. And it's transferred to my career now as a mentor. I don't think that it's one of those areas of mentoring that you're not really prepared for.
But mentoring is deeply reflexive. We think about what we need to do. Very hard to teach people to be reflexive, apart from standing there and saying, think about what you're doing. Maybe, and this is what we're doing here, is to give some of the strategies about how we've become reflexive, using things like strong personal ethics, using things like a red, green, yellow color coding for ideas about stop, go, and don't, and actually then passing them on to others to help them in their reflexive journey, but with that deep hope, again and again, their journey is going to be their journey. That will make them the better mentor. Does mean it can get a little bit woo-woo hippie, but I think we're happy with that.
Absolutely.
So we've said spoons and service, this whole idea of making sure you've got your own energy to help others with their burnout as well, so that you don't become. Are burnouts always great big events? In your experience with the students you've talked to, with your own personal experience, is it short? Is it long? How?
I would say, do I have the academic evidence to back up my points? No, but I can probably go find them.
Yeah. But we're happy with anecdotal.
Burnout, to my mind, much like neurodivergent profiles, are spiky, and they're going to vary greatly depending on your environment, your context, your career, whether that's academic or professional or both, how you manage your time, self-acceptance. So I could literally reel off, Brian, that beautiful diagram that you included in your PhD with what mentoring is. And I think burnout will look differently. If you were to sit in front of a student and circle all the things going on in their world, that was that one student's burnout. And that might be a week, that might be 2 weeks, that might be a month. And then you might speak to your next student, do the same exercise, and they might be burnt out for 48 hours. They might be burnt out for the afternoon. I don't think you can define it with time scales, and I think it's very much different on different people.
I have one caveat to that if you're getting into the 3rd or 4th week and your body has gone into protective mode, then you're risking depression,
Yeah.
which is that I'm so burnt out that it's triggered a period of depression. And actually, depression itself, just reframing it, actually, some of it is about your body shouting, no, you've got to stop, and you haven't stopped properly. I'm going to damn well make you stay underneath the duvets, and we'll try and realign yourself.
Yeah.
It's when depression then becomes serious and chronic.
Yeah.
And I have a hunch, again, I'm with you, you know, I may read some of this stuff, but I can't put my finger on it. This feeling that depression as a coping strategy can become one of the first things that we reach for.
Yeah.
It becomes part of our routine for resetting, that maybe we need a little period of depression to get ourselves back on, but there might be better routines for getting ourselves back together, for getting ourselves back on the range. Short burnouts. Let's start with some short burnouts. If you've had a short burnout, if you're talking to a student who's had a sort of 48-hour, oh, I've got to crash and burn, what do you say as a mentor?
First things first, I can usually spot it in other people better than I can spot it in myself.
Oh, the
And
mentor's curse.
I wish that I could apply my knowledge, my skill set, my strategy on myself, but the demand avoidance is wild when I get to that point. But for a student, from a mental professional working perspective, we look at the environment, we look at the schedule, we look at the context, we look at the commitments, we look at the routine. And
just to pause you there, those are brilliant things because they align the student out from self-reflection. Now, self-reflection, love it, it's a great thing, can become rumination. And that's the first thing. After a short burnout, you say, it's okay, you haven't messed anything up, it'll be all right. Yeah.
Comes back to that validation.
Yeah.
For some students, perhaps this might be the first time that parents or parents haven't, managed their world. And actually, whilst the term proxy parenting is wrong in terms of that's not what mentoring is, there are transferable elements of it that you become that safe person, that person that validates, the person that's reliable. And I think if you look at how a parent may manage things, a parent will know their child inside and out, or you'd hope. But you have to build up, we've talked about this in previous episodes, where that rapport, to be able to establish positive growth, you've got to be able to reflect, but you've got to be able to meet the student where they want to meet you. And that may change over time, but to be able to really help them, you've got to have that rapport in the first place as a foundation.
And it makes me think that this step that we have from proxy parenting, we don't want to be the proxy parent, but we might have to do it for a little while because parents are lovely and they will always love you, hopefully, but they're really bad at letting go.
Yeah.
And part of it might be that we need to be that person that sort of scoops up for a little bit and then sets people loose.
Yeah.
And it's that, and it comes back. Sometimes I think quite a lot about maladaptive coping strategies.
Yeah.
Sometimes maybe as teenagers, as children, we create ways of doing stuff to keep ourselves together, to keep ourselves functional. And we sometimes broke our parents for that. Off to university, our parents are no longer there. We have these figures in our life that can step in for a little while and help us realign our coping strategy.
I've got a funny story around that, Brian. Sorry to interrupt.
No. Interrupting.
So
Brilliant.
I came from a world where I had a lot of structure in place. Like there was very much a routine. Monday to Friday were school days, and then the weekends were mine, etc. Shall I tell you what I did with my first food shop? So bear in mind, up until the week I moved in, my parents were doing the food shop.
Yeah.
So at the time, you could do this thing with a supermarket where parents sent you money. Have a guess what I spent it on, Brian?
If it's anything like me, it was a large bottle of rum. No, my coping strategies wasn't good. What was yours?
Cheddar cheese, a massive block.
Yep.
And eggs. And for 4 weeks, I had omelettes for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I did it to death, to the point where I have to fancy an omelette now. That's a perfect example of gone where you, all of a sudden that your mum's not preparing your meals, your parents aren't producing your meals, they're not washing your laundry, and it's a massive transition for any student, neurodivergent or otherwise. So I know that I personally developed strategies before I even knew I was neurodivergent to manage that time in my life. But I know that they're in my toolkit now because I can meet students that are new students, let's say my cohort from this year, from this September, that will utilize and apply their own adaptation of that strategy in their own world. That's what I love about mentoring.
It's amazing. But I also love the fact that you chose omelets. Omelets are not easy to get just right.
It was a challenge. It was a
temptation. So, it's brilliant. I'm assuming you chose omelets because you kind of liked them back then before you did them to death.
Yeah. Well, I'd come from a home where there were 3 children and all 3 of us loved cheese. So cheese wasn't massively available, which it would have been any neuronormative household, I suppose. But for me, it was that, I can have as much cheese as I want, bizarre.
Yeah.
But there we are.
So it all goes into an omelette. Something that is actually, as food goes, omelette and a little bit of salad on the side, that's good for you. You chose something that was good for you. And the routine of changing the routine, your mum's food, wasn't there.
No.
I think it's a fantastic way of doing it. I will tell you, actually, the first time as a student I visited a supermarket, I actually sat down and cried.
Okay.
I had, in my defense, I'd been living in Latin America until 9 days beforehand. And I came back from a society in which there was food shortages on the Yungas in Bolivia to suddenly this mass capitalism. And for me, the thing I struggled, the thing that broke me a little bit was actually having to reintegrate with the capitalist society rather than going across to the sort of tin house couple of down and saying, do you have some eggs? And I'll swap you some eggs for some of this kind of stuff. Coming out of what was a bit of a barter situation into, I have to give food and it's all big and it's all shiny. So I sat down and it stayed to me in Summerfields in Chelsea and I cried. There we go. It hits us all. This routine and change from what we are. Mine was from moving from a third world country into the UK, having just adjusted myself to the third world country. It's hard. The adjustment gets us every single time.
I think the transition from school to post-16 education is a transition itself, but I actually feel the transition from post-16 to undergraduate level, I personally feel that you have to forge a new identity, regardless of who you are, regardless of your conditions, your environment, and who you were fundamentally in your past. There is a certain level that all students, this is a new role where they're not students living at home where meals are still being made. This is students where you're responsible for all of your world. And I think for a lot of students that's completely overwhelming and causes shutdown, which is slightly different to burnout.
Oh, indeed, burnout, that sort of shutdown, that wonderful, all the barriers go up, and it's quite protective. It is a good old shutdown, and it's making sure that you can peak out from your shutdown and learn from your shutdown rather than it actually shutting you down entirely. It's having that little sort of reflective ticking on. And actually, things like shutdown, they're a coping strategy. In some circumstances, it may be a maladaptive one. It may be one that isn't going to work particularly well and will cause more issues. It's finding the right coping strategy rather than just ones that we had to use all the way through sixth form. It's the ones that we've had to use since primary school. And this is the coping strategy and the line between that and masking. Because masking, well, if you can drop the mask, you've got more energy to do more stuff. If you can drop the coping strategy, you've got more energy to do more stuff. But then there's that living in vulnerability. And arriving at university with all these new strangers who, to be frank, they're all 18. They're probably not quite fully formed yet. They're still freshers. How do you be vulnerable in all that? It's all those things coming together. Just for those who like to do a bit of reading, I do recommend you have a little look at Ailey Cage and a Mac paper in 2022, which was really about COVID and burnout and academic success. Their findings were that academic burnout was more common in people who had maladaptive coping strategies. People who were more likely to leave university around COVID was maladaptive coping strategies. And it didn't really matter if they were autistic, ADHD, or predominant neurotype. It was actually using the wrong coping strategies. And in COVID, did this terrible thing of making everybody change what they were doing. So all of us who had a coping strategy that didn't work and went back to some of the things that we did as kids, as young adults, those were the ones of us who were more likely to fall through the gaps. So it's making sure that we reevaluate our coping strategies on a regular basis. Keeps us whole.
Absolutely.
Lucy, I think we've talked through most of our talking points for today. Is there anything that we've glossed through?
I think we have gone through most of the things that we wanted to talk about today. And we talked about extra things. And I think that's the beautiful nature of a podcast, really.
Not just a podcast, but mentoring.
That's very true.
Yeah, it is. I don't know the time where you've sat down and you've had a conversation that went in the direction you even slightly expected it to.
No, and there are obviously the safety boundaries of mentoring, and there are about safety. But no two students do I have the same conversation framed in exactly the same way. And I just love the vast variety. I picture my relationship with my mentees as going to Wisley in their glass house and looking at all the exotic plants, all the interests, all their views, how they plan things. Neurodivergence is my special interest. So I view the Wisley glass house for me, and the beautiful tropical plants inside is how I see my students in themselves. And I just love learning from them. So there's very few areas that haven't been, to my mind, explored. But I bet I'll be wrong. And if you ask me the same question in a year's time, do you think there's other areas?
I'm loving that Wisley Hot House thing, because the last time I went to Wisley Hot House, I came across a 12-foot high inflatable bunny rabbit. It's that kind of thing. Oh, seriously, you go in expecting plants, you suddenly find that there's this giant thing that get towering down at you. It is that unexpected place. Most of the time, we will find that wonderful variety of plants in existing experience. Sometimes we will find things that we don't expect, and they're part of the human experience as well.
It's a bit like it's a little bit in a similar analogy. I never expect going to Edinburgh's botanical gardens to see the statues in a pond. I sort of had to take a double look. I was like, oh, have you ever been to Edinburgh Botanical Gardens?
No,
houses. They've got these humongous lily pads that are beautiful. I think they're hippos, but I could be wrong. Don't quote me. I think they're like statue hippos in one of their ponds, or it might have been. I think it is hippos. But I sort of had to look twice.
Or really ugly squirrels. It's very hard to tell.
Very big squirrels.
And it's that sudden surprise, and maybe that's what we've got to talk about. Maybe in one of the future episodes is the surprise mentoring. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, Lucy.
Thank you, Brian.
If you have any questions, we'd love to hear them at neuromentoringpodcast@gmail.com.
This has been Mentoring. Be brilliant.